Once we arrived in Tripoli, it was essentially a waiting game. We knew that there were a number of these auctions going on in a variety of different locations, and we knew that they happened once or twice a month. It was, I think, probably the longest few days, among the longest few days of my life, waiting to hear whether this was actually happening. We needed to push to try and get access to those people. There are 1 to 2 of these auctions every month, and that there is one happening in the next few hours, so we're gonna... I don't honestly know what I was expecting going in. I think I couldn't figure out how you could mentally process selling other human beings. And then when we heard them speaking about these people that they were selling as merchandise, it made sense, because you need a certain degree of cognitive dissonance. You have to dehumanize someone. Finally, it's time to move.
You still have a job to do, so it distracts you a bit from what you just witnessed. But when we were actually sitting there watching the auction, it felt like everything was going in very, very slow motion.
There were all the things that we knew we needed to hit as journalists, getting him to use the word auction on our audio to confirm that it's an auction, getting the auctioneer to confirm that they had sold 12 people on that night, having all of that as evidence.
I remember being outside in the car park of the detention centre, and I went round the corner and there was this massive room, and the front was open to the elements, and ostensibly it was a cage, right? It was a wire cage, and people were looking at you from the other side. And I remember thinking, you know, if there was a single gorilla in there, people would think, how sad, he hasn't got a lot of room. And it turns out there were over 1,000 people in there.
Every day in an environment like that counts. Not being able to take a good shower, sitting there and not having the food you need, being thirsty. So every hour counts. And leaving them behind in an enclosed space like that and not being able to help, because you can't help one of them. You'd have to help all 1,000 plus within that, because you can't just go to a few people and be like, how can I help you? You really need to help them all.
Just take us home.
There was a point where Alex and I were interviewing Victory, the 21-year-old who'd been enslaved, and I was overwhelmed because Victory was overwhelmed.
Going back home now. A lot of my friends, we start together.
His dream was to be a designer. He wanted to come to Italy and work as a stylist, and maybe one day work with Dolce & Gabbana, and it was such a relatable dream.
And why not? Because he's African?
And why not? Exactly. I think this is the first story in a long time where I had nightmares. There was just something really fundamentally heartbreaking about people's dreams being exploited in that way. I think we were all thinking that, you know, we just hope we can do justice to this.